Welcome to Sports Corner with Ralph Williams and Smokin' Jim Frazier. And now here's your host, Ralph Williams and Smokin' Jim Frazier.
Oh, yeah. You know who the man is. That's me, Ralph Williams, along with the other man, Smokin' Jim Frazier. And it's another edition of Sports Corner. We're here every Tuesday, 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then following afterwards at 5 to 6 p.m. is Wrestle Talk. And today on Wrestle Talk at 5, we have Lou Marconi, former NWA wrestler, and he also is a reporter for the Fan First Sports Network, who we've done business with before he's national media, and he talks about the Cleveland Browns, and he's going to come on and talk with us about that as well, and also his time with the NWA. And we have a lot to talk about as well on the Wrestle Talk show. Today, we have Ray FIDEPALDO standing by phone. He'll be coming on momentarily to talk about the Steelers and get you ready for today or for Saturday's game against the Ravens. And I want to say this. I want to congratulate my wife, Rhonda, because she called it. She said the Steelers are going to be playing the Ravens. And guess what? They are on Saturday. And Ray FIDEPALDO will bring us up to speed on everything. First, I want to say hello to my co-host, Smokin' Jim Frazier. Smokin' Jim, Happy New Year. Welcome to the program. Okay, hang on a minute. Hang on, Smokin' Jim. Okay, you there, Smokin' Jim? Can you hear me? Okay, hold on. I don't know why something's going wrong here with this. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you good.
All right, very good. Okay, great. All right, Smokin' Jim. All right, on the line right now, but before we do that, we're going to get into my rant. But Smokin' Jim, I wanted to wish you a Happy New Year, and thank you for being part of the show as always.
Hey, thanks, Ralph. I'm ready for this one.
All right. Let's get started here with my rant today. And my rant is twofold today. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about Pitt football. They went out on a bad note. They lost the bowl game to Toledo, of all teams to lose to in this bowl game. They had a lot of injuries. They had a lot of excuses for why they lost, 5 games, and then they ended up losing 6 after the bowl game. Pitt was disappointing this year. They went 7-6, and so it's going to be disappointing again next year. And I'm hoping Alan Green would fire Pat Narduzzi. But guess what? I found out that Pat Narduzzi's buyout clause is $70 million. How do you like that one? So, just to let you know, it's $70 million, and that's why they can't fire Pat Narduzzi. My next rant is I want to talk about Jerry Jones here for a minute. Jerry Jones must be taking lessons from the Dallas Cowboy owner. He must be taking lessons from Bob Nutting. He sat down his quarterback and put in that bum Trey Lance because the quarterback was going to make $200 and some $1,000 or some whatever it was a bonus for games played. So instead of letting him play and get his bonus, Jerry Jones became a tightwad, just like Bob Nutting would do, and wouldn't let him get his bonus. And that's my rant for today. My rants for today. Smokin' Jim, go ahead.
Hey, thanks, Ralph. And I'm not too sure Trey Lance is a bum. He played a pretty good game. His younger brother, is a wide receiver for North Dakota State. He's one of the best wide receivers statistically in the country. So keep an eye on him. But hey, in 2025, I'm really not down on the local teams, man. Pitt made the bowl game this year, and they got a lot of young players coming back. The Pittsburgh Steelers is in the playoff, which is always a good thing. And I believe that the Pittsburgh Penguins and the Pittsburgh Pirates have a chance in 2025 to make the playoffs. So things are looking good here locally. And that's it.
All right. Great. Smoking Jim's wisdom. Apologize for us being late. We had some technical issues today that we had to get straightened out here before we come on the air. And before we get Ray on the air, real quick here, we're going to get into our studio sponsor, Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. You ought to call Mata 724-201-0500. Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. They are our studio sponsor for today. And also, Ray FIDEPALDO is brought to you in part by Keystone Coach Works on Route 88 in Bethel Park. Call them today, 412-833-1900. Ask for Dawn. Tell Dawn Ralph Williams sent you. If you need a wheelchair accessible van like I did, I went to Keystone Coach Works. He did everything for me. He set me up with everything I needed for my wheelchair accessible van. So give Dawn a call today as well. All right, with us on the line today is Ray FIDEPALDO from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Ray, welcome to the program.
Ralph, Smokin, Jim, Happy New Year, and looking forward to some playoff football on Saturday. Should be fun.
All right. Smokin, Jim, say hello, and Happy New Year back to Ray.
Hey, what's happening, Ray? Always good to hear you, brother.
Same here, my man.
All right. Ray, I like the fact that I heard a story that you gave an F plus or an F minus to the coaching staff for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're going into the playoffs on a 4-game losing streak, and the reason I gave them an F for the Bengals game, Ralph, was the offensive game plan. And this is all Mike Tomlin. Russell Wilson threw for 414 yards in that 44-38 win in Cincinnati only 1 month ago. And for Mike Tomlin to come out and want to change the game plan to run the ball with an idea that he's going to possess the ball, to me, that just was him trying to outsmart himself. I don't care what the weather was like. And I think if they want to do anything in the playoffs, if they want to get off this losing streak, they got to put some trust back in Russell Wilson. This was a guy that you were leaning on middle of the season, even as late as that game against the Bengals 1 month ago. Lean on him, see what he can do, because what they're doing right now during this losing streak certainly is not working.
All right, Ray. One other thing I wanted to ask you. And Arthur Smith is a candidate for a couple head coaching jobs. Has the Steelers given these teams permission to talk to him?
Yes, the Jets and the Bears have asked for permission, and the Steelers will grant that permission. You know, the rules have changed a little bit now. He cannot interview while the Steelers are still in the playoffs, but I think once that is over, he will be going through the interview process. And listen, I don't know that Smith has a great chance, to land either of those jobs, but the fact that he is interviewing tells you that he does have a lot of respect around the National Football League.
Smokin, Jim, you have any questions for Ray?
Yeah, Ray, what do you think the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do in the offseason, either through free agency or the draft, to get them over the hump next year?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm going to give you my top 3 positions to watch for the draft and free agency, and they're not in any particular order right now, but I feel pretty strongly that these are the 3 positions you got to address. Number 1, receiver. We've seen all year, guys, even when George Pickens was going good, they didn't have enough behind him that they could be a really good offense. So for me, it's receiver. Number 2, defensive line. Cam Hayward balled out this year. He had a great year, but they got to start getting younger, and I would try to address that position as well. And then to me, and I think you've seen how the Chiefs, the Bengals, and the Ravens have kind of picked apart that secondary. To me, you got to go out and get another corner. I know they view Joey Porter as a potential number 1. He's had his ups and downs this year. To me, go out and get another really good corner so you have 2 good young corners to go into the future with.
All right. My next question to you, Ray, where do you see the Steelers this year or this Saturday in this game against the Ravens? Can they pull it off? And if so, tell me what score you think they can, if they can pull it off.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Ralph, they're not giving me a lot of confidence that they can go down there and play well. But let me give you let me give you a scenario.
Go ahead.
Let's say the Steelers were playing it tight to the vest. They didn't want to show a lot these final few weeks. And let's say they come out throwing the ball, okay? They score early. And then in that circumstance, knowing that the Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens have had some home playoff disappointments in their recent past, maybe the Ravens tighten up a little bit. They get nervous, and that's a way for the Steelers to win this football game. But guys, I mean, these slow starts for the Steelers, they've been problematic all season. Let me give you a stat. During this 4-game losing streak, they have been outscored in the first quarter 40-3. And I don't have to tell you guys about how they started playoff games.
Right.
Get behind last year, 21-0 in Buffalo. You know what happened in Kansas City. They got behind 28-7 in Kansas City. So if, and I know it's a big if given what's going on here, but if they can get off to a decent start, they might have a chance to put a little bit of pressure on the Ravens, and maybe the playoff Lamar Jackson will come out instead of the regular season MVP Lamar Jackson, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, Smokin' Jim. Any more questions for Ray?
Yeah, I just got one.
Go ahead.
Hey, Ray, who do you think should win the offensive MVP and defensive MVP for the NFL this year?
Okay, yeah, I think, Lamar's won it twice, and I'm not going to be that guy that says let's give it to somebody else. But really, when you look at the totality of the season and where the Ravens were a few weeks ago, it wasn't their best year. Buffalo's really been playing well all season, and even in their losses, Josh Allen has played really well. So to me, if you look at the numbers between those two guys, it's really even. I'm just going to give the nod a little bit to Josh Allen because the Bills have had a better regular season and they go into the AFC with a higher seed. And as far as defensive player of the year goes, guys, it's not a great year. Look at Hutchinson got injured early. He was probably the front runner when he got injured. There's not a lot of candidates. So I know this isn't TJ Watt's best statistical season, but if you look at the way he's been double teamed and you still look at some of the numbers and the pressures that he's compiled, I think it's the best defensive season in the NFL. So it's a little bit weird, right? He probably deserved to win last year with better numbers. I think he wins in a weaker class this year just because he's had that type of season.
Ray, let me ask you this. I know they call it Black Monday, which is the day that the coaches that want to get fired or are getting fired usually get fired. Some of them got fired on Sunday. Which coach were you surprised about that got fired?
I can't say that I was surprised by anything. I think we all know that, when you have a guy like Trevor Lawrence, Doug Peterson was known as an offensive guru, and they made the playoffs in his first year, but they didn't really duplicate that success. So I wasn't surprised with that. Tell you what, the one I was surprised with was the fact that the Giants kept both their GM Joe Schoen and head coach Brian Dable. I thought for sure they would move on after this year. New York being a big market, I thought they would want to make a splash move. But to me, that's the big surprise. The Giants are standing pat, and they're going to give both those guys one more shot to get it done.
Hey, let me ask you this question here. Which teams in the AFC and which teams in the NFC do you deem dangerous? I'm talking about wild card. I'm talking about the lower end teams, not the upper echelon. Which ones do you see dangerous on both ends that could make it to the AFC and NFC championship game?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, keep an eye on the Chargers. I think the Texans are a week 4 seed, and the Chargers got a break by the Steelers losing. So now they'll get to go into Houston. If they can win, I think they can maybe get on a little bit of a run. They were a conservative offensive team early in the year. They're letting Herbert throw the ball a little bit more now. So watch for them. I think they got an easy draw. First round, they're a team that can make a run to a championship game. And then I'm going to go off the board a little bit in the NFC, guys. This was my pick to go to the Super Bowl before the season. I still believe in their quarterback, even though they haven't played well lately. I think the Packers can make a run. I remember what they did last year. They beat the Cowboys in the first round. They had the 49ers on the ropes. I think that'll be good experience for them going in. Yeah, they got a tough draw this year, but as a lower seed, I think they're my one dark horse, and I'm still sticking with them, even though they didn't have a great regular season.
All right, Ray. Smokin' Jim, do you have any questions for Ray? Any more questions you want to ask?
No, great stuff, Ray.
All right, Ray. Let's get back to the Steelers a little bit here, and I forgot to talk to you about this. Why is the defense so uncoordinated? I mean, we're talking about a head coach that's been in the league for 18 years with a bunch of players that are paid a lot of money. What is going on here?
Well, a lot of injuries in the secondary in the second half of the season, Ralph, and they said that was a big reason for some of those miscommunications that took place against the Eagles, the Ravens, and the Chiefs. Now that was bad, and I admit that was bad, but they did rectify that against the Bengals. They didn't have any blown coverages in that game, and to hold the Bengals, a team that was averaging like 28 points a game, to hold them to 19 points, I thought it was actually a pretty good job by the defense overall. I would have liked to see them maybe play better early, not get behind 10-0, but I thought they did a pretty solid job after that. And, no one wants to hear excuses, but I think those injuries played a big part of that late in the season. All those guys are back now, so hopefully all that stuff is behind them as they get ready to play the Ravens.
All right, Ray, thanks for being part of the program today. I was so glad that you could come on and talk with us a little bit about the Steelers. And thank you again for coming on. And let's see what happens this Saturday. We'll try to get you back on, maybe as an end of the season kind of a show that I always have those special shows. And we're going to try to come on. The good, the bad, and the ugly, we're going to call it. If the season ends on Saturday, we're going to call it the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Steelers for this year. And I'm going to have a special show. I have you come on and some other people as well that cover the Steelers. So thanks for being on the program, Ray. Smokin' Jim, anything you want to add?
No, hey, good luck this weekend, Ray.
All right, guys. Hey, thanks for having me on, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, thank you. That was Ray FIDEPALDO. Works for the Post-Gazette, covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. I apologize for the late delay. I was having some technical issues here today, and I got them all fixed up here, so we were a little late getting on the air. Smokin' Jim, your thoughts on what Ray had to say in this game this Saturday? What are your thoughts?
Oh man, Ray nailed it as usual, man. He laid it out. Hey, listen, the Pittsburgh Steelers is kind of backing their way into the playoffs, but hey, crazier things has happened. They Baltimore and Pittsburgh know each other. That's one of the biggest rivalries in all of football. So it should be a fun game for the coaching staff, the players. I was really surprised that I don't know if you heard about this, but the Ravens made something on their social media and they called George Pickens soft.
Yeah, I did see that. We were going to talk. We're going to talk about that. We can talk about that right now. I was going to talk about that at the 4:30 time, but that's fine. We can talk about that right now. I did see that. You know what? George Pickens deserves to get that because he's acted foolish and crazy and really hasn't done what a lot of people are expecting from him. All right. RXJ says Happy New Year, Smokin' Jim, and also hello to you and I. RXJ, one of my favorite commenters here on the show. So sorry to interrupt Smokin' Jim, but anyway, yeah, I called him soft, and again, George Pickens deserves it because it is really kind of true. He hasn't been himself. He hasn't done well, and I know he had an injury, but he hasn't done what he's supposed to be a number one receiver supposed to do. And sometimes I think the Steelers are better off without him. What do you think?
Well, he had one bad game.
Yeah,
he had one bad game. Other than that, he's been playing like a number one receiver again. I said in my draft report when the Steelers drafted him, I said in my draft report that George Pickens is the most talented player wide receiver in the draft, but he could never play for me.
Yeah.
And it's because of his antics that people are seeing, and when you lay down with the devil, that's what really happens. But I wouldn't call him soft. He's pretty tough for a wide receiver. He'll fight. He'll go up in the stands and fight the home fans, away fans. And hell, I think two bad things. He had a bad game this past week, and that Hail Mary that they threw, I believe, the Cleveland Brown game, he's fighting the defensive back instead of trying to catch the football. But hey, we're stuck. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are stuck with him. What do you think, Ralph? They really don't have a lot of receivers. Even Ray says that should be priority one for the Steelers in the offseason is either draft or bring in a wide receiver.
Yeah, they've laid an egg. They should have took Jordan Addison, like you said, and I agree with you on that. As much as Luther Dupree argues with us on our radio show all the time about how, Jordan Addison this, Jordan Addison that. But take a look at the statistics. I mean, you're the one that pointed out the statistics of what Jordan Addison has done compared to George Pickens or compared to any other receiver we have on the team. And that's the bottom line right there. I mean, what do we have? Austin, okay, he does okay. Van Jefferson, well, drops the ball. Okay, he's becoming a Dropson. And then you have, and then Skoranek, he's a blocker, but he was hurt again. You can't help the club if you're in the tub. So I mean, it's just been one thing after another around here. Mike Williams, I wish they would use him a little bit more. I don't know what happened to him. He seems to drift away.
Was that a heck of a catch? Was that a heck of a catch he made along the sideline?
Yes, that was a good catch.
Game?
Yes,
that was unbelievable.
Yes,
then they stopped throwing to him.
I know. It's like they threw that one touchdown pass in the Washington game, and then they quit. They just quit throwing to him. I mean, I don't get. I fear for the Jets and the Bears, and the reason I fear for them is because they're interviewing Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith, if he can't call the right plays in these games and not give Russell Wilson the freedom, like Ray said, to do what he needs to do, instead of handcuffing these quarterbacks, okay? It's just, I hate to see what will happen with the Jets and the Bears. They're just going to get worse if they hire him as a head coach. I mean, I'm sorry. I would love to see him go because I want to see him get like a Doug Peterson to come in here, you know what I mean? Or somebody like that. Or if even Brian DeBoe even got fired, bring him in because he's a good offensive coordinator. I mean, I've said this many times. You could be a good coordinator and be a stinky head coach. And I mean, you and I in our times have seen it. I mean, more than once. And I've said it so many times. Some people can bake a cake and some people can't. And if Arthur Smith, maybe the second time around as a head coach might work for him. I don't have any problem with him leaving because this is what Mike Tomlin gets for not bringing in somebody of quality. Okay.
Good point.
They hired that Liam Clem down there in Tampa. Look at what he's doing for Baker Mayfield after Dave Canales took that Carolina job. They could have hired him, the guy that's the offensive coordinator down in Atlanta. He was a quarterbacks coach with the Chargers last year, the Rams or whatever. They could have hired him. Atlanta Penix didn't do too bad after Cousins laid an egg. You know what I mean? Right. So, I mean, they could have hired that guy. Instead, they chose to hire Arthur Smith, who, in my opinion, has one of the most boringest offenses that you could probably have because Mike Tomlin can't get with the program to the fact that you have to do more than just run the football. You can't run all the time on first down. And if Arthur Smith is going to continue to do this, that's going to be more of a detriment. I read something on a report, and I don't know if I sent it to you or not, the 7 coaches that should be fired from the Steelers. And Arthur Smith is one of them that was listed. And it came from one of the Steeler newspapers. And they said, Arthur Smith, your buddy Pat Meyer, the offensive line coach, who I think is doing a pretty reasonable job with what he has to work with. Okay.
Yeah.
They said that Mike Sullivan should be fired because they claimed that the quarterbacks have regressed. or whatever. I don't know. Or, he's been around too long. They also said the wide receivers coach that Zanini should be fired. I mean, they just brought him in this year. And, so to whip Pickens into shape. You see where that's gone. He's fighting with players, slapping people in the mouth, fighting with the ref, getting in trouble with the fans and all that other stuff. One thing you never do is piss your fans off. In college football, one thing you never do is piss your fans or your alum off, or the student body. That's one thing you never do. Kevin Stallings did that here at Pitt, and that's why he didn't succeed, because he pissed off the student body. And one thing you never do is talk bad about the student body, because they'll be your biggest supporters in any sport you do in college football. But once you say something bad about them, or you start making fun of the alum, look out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
We're in the Mata Heating and Air Conditioning Studios, 724-201-0500, Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. I got an email this week. Somebody wanted to know why we don't do the Mata thing on the radio anymore. The station has a sponsor for their studios that they use, and they asked me to just make it a sponsor, not a studio sponsor. So that is why we are sponsored now on the radio show of Mata Heating and Air Conditioning. And speaking of the radio show, don't forget to join us this Saturday and every Saturday, 2 to 3 p.m. For the Sports Corner radio show with me, Ralph Williams, Smokin' Jim Frazier. And we added our two best buddies, Claudio Rosano and Luther Dupree. And also, I want to bring everybody up to date, and I promised you I would. The producers to Save PCTV, we met today with Point Park University. They're going to work with us. The city of Pittsburgh's working with us. By the end of March, early April, we're probably going to have something for everybody, and we're going to have the network back up and running and stuff like that. So, we're working on saving PCTV, and we got some things we're doing, and right now, and as they say, the pieces of the puzzle are coming together. So I just want to let everyone know that as well. But don't forget to tune in, and also don't forget to tune into my Ralph Williams show, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. this week, or this Saturday. My guest is Cletus Lee. He is the mayor of North Braddock, and we're going to talk about the Nippon Steel, U.S. Steel deal. And yesterday, the mayors, they got together for a meeting with the one co-chairman of the board of Nippon Steel. He was in town yesterday, and he met with them at the mayor of West Mifflin's house. And Cletus Lee will bring us up to speed on Saturday about that meeting. So tune in. Very great. We're going to have a great time with Cletus Lee, the mayor of North Braddock. I'm working on, because I'm the booking machine, I'm working on one more mayor in the Mon Valley, so we might have 2 or 3 on if I could get them on as well. But Cletus Lee definitely will be in studio with me Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. The Ralph Williams Show. Let's keep let's keep U.S. Steel in Pittsburgh. All right. Also, don't forget later on at 5 to 6 p.m. we have our Wrestle Talk show with me, Ralph Williams, Smokin' Jim Frazier. Immediately following Sports Corner, we're supposed to have Lou Marconi come on, and Lou is a former NWA wrestler, and also he is going to talk with us about the recent firing. The Cleveland Browns fired Ken Dorsey, and they fired one other coach this week. And then this next segment, we're going to talk about some of the coaches that got fired and some who didn't. And that's coming up, but that's brought to you in part today by Robin Campbell Insurance, 412-366-3399. Give Robin a call today. He has all different types of insurance, and he will take really good care of you. And also, I met with Joe today, one of the guys that runs and is in charge of Draft Nation. I was talking with him this afternoon. Catch our advertising and some of our programs on Draft Nation's website as well. And they have their own podcast that they're doing as well. Here it is, Draft Nation. Also, they have a e-magazine that they'll put in your inbox, $9.99 a month. You can't beat this. Smokin' Jim knows they're the kings of the draft all across the board, NBA, NHL, so on and so forth. All right, Smokin' Jim, let's move on here. Let's talk about some of the NFL coaches that got fired. I heard today Antonio Pierce got fired. What's your thoughts on all these firings?
Well, one, I was kind of surprised Cincinnati Bengals let 4 coaches assistant coaches go.
Oh, wow. I
You
didn't
know,
know that. The
especially,
playoffs. Oh, yeah. Well,
yeah,
they missed the playoffs. Yeah, that's
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially after winning 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
But But yeah, Antonio Pierce. I, I I was surprised. I was not surprised he got let go, but I think he was. You know, there wasn't that much rumors coming out of Los Angeles or Las Vegas that Pierce would get fired. He shouldn't have got the job in the first place.
Exactly.
He's the one. He's the one that was in the nightclub with Plexico Burris when the gun went off. He's the one took him to the hospital. So I never seen him as a head coach, but he may be pretty good on TV. So he may have a future there.
But anyway, how about Doug Peterson? I wasn't surprised, but there was a bunch of national pundits out here that said that they didn't think Doug Peterson was going to get fired because the Cons would let him stay for another season or two. I said it, but the Cons, they don't put up with that stuff. They want winning football. Jacksonville hasn't been a winning football team in a while, and they made the mistake when they hired Urban Meyer. And, I thought Doug Peterson would bring him back a little bit. But see, Doug Peterson's problem is, Smokin' Jim, and I think you'll agree with me, when he was in Philly, he took him to the Super Bowl and all that. But then after that, everything declined. And he did the same thing in Jacksonville. His first year, he took him to playoffs. And then all of a sudden, in the last 2 years, he stink up the joint. So, I mean, that's exactly why, I think that they fired him. And I probably myself might have gave him another year because Smokin' Jeremy B even said on one Wednesday night on our NFL roundtable that we do, he and I and some others, he said he thought they would give him a pass because of the injury to Trevor Lawrence. But you know what? Trevor Lawrence, even when he was healthy, stunk this year. So, I mean, but, we'll see what happens there with that. And some of these other teams.
Who you think Jacksonville will hire?
You know what? That's a good question. That's a really good question, Smokin' Jim. Who I think would be a good fit for them but I don't know how far Detroit's going to go. I hope they go to the Super Bowl because I like Dan Campbell as a coach. I think Ben Johnson could get a shot. The offensive coordinator for Detroit, he's up for some jobs. That Slovic guy or Slozik or whatever, the offensive coordinator down in Houston, he's up for a couple jobs for what he did with C.J. Stroud. So I don't know. I'm hearing rumors Miami might fire their coach down there. I'm hearing that story too.
Wow.
I heard that yesterday. So, wow. But all the teams are some of the ones that really don't know if they want to fire their team. Smokin' Jim, what do they always say? We're evaluating what we're doing evaluation. So
here's a surprising one is that McCarthy's contract's up, I think, tomorrow.
Yes.
And he's been granted permission if he wants to talk to the Chicago Bears. I don't know what Dallas is doing. Are they going? They're going to he played he coached on the lame duck contract. I've never seen that before, where your head coach is still in your building, still working every day, don't have a contract, and you're like only to talk to other teams.
Well, you know what? I hope he gets the Bears job for Caleb Williams' sake. You know what I'm saying? Because he needs a good coach, somebody that can really get. They fired Luke Getsy because they thought Luke Getsy was going to be a good offensive coordinator and quarterback coach for him, and it didn't work out, and they ended up firing him. And then Eberflus got fired, which he should have never got that job to begin with. He was a terrible head coach. New Orleans. Who do you think New Orleans is going to hire? I haven't even heard who they have for candidate to hire. So there's a lot of people out there. So we'll see what happens. Oh, I heard Eric Bieniemy's getting interviewed again. I gotta do this, Smokin' Jim. I gotta send out the alarm. Eric Bieniemy, there we go. That's our buddy, man. We always pick on Eric Bieniemy. So I think he's going to be coaching one of them prison teams, the Mean Machine or something like that, the prison league or something, He's what is he now? He's the assistant to the assistant offensive assistant at Washington State or Washington Huskies or something. That's what he's doing now.
Incredible.
It is, isn't it, how he's regressed? If he would have stayed at Kansas City, think about it.
We said it. We said it right then and there. Everybody told us we was crazy.
You were the one that said it too. We both said it. We both agreed on that. We
both said that.
But the key ingredient here is my wife predicted it. She said, "I bet we're going to be playing the Ravens on Saturday." And guess what? We're playing the Ravens again on Saturday.
That was great, man. Great prediction.
I train her well. She never really got into sports as much as she does now because she's married to me now, and since we've been together, I've gotten her into sports and wrestling and stuff like that. So it's a nice thing, So, but anyway, all right, Smokin' Jim. Let's move on here. Notre Dame versus Penn State. Who do you think's going to win that game? I think Notre Dame's going to win. I'm very impressed with it. With their coach there, Marcus Freeman. I'm very impressed with him. I personally, when he first got hired, I didn't think he was going to do much of anything there and was going to get fired. And look where he has Notre Dame at right now, and I got egg on my face. So your thoughts on this game?
I never really count out Penn State unless they're playing Ohio State or something like that. I think Penn State and Notre Dame match up talent-wise, comparable. Both got an up and down quarterback situation. I think that Penn State can run the football. They got really good superior explosive defensive guys that don't always play at their level. They got a Pittsburgh Steelers type defense with all these supposedly great players, but don't always play at that level during the game. So because of the local talent, I'm going to just give a lean to the Penn State Nittany Lions on this one.
Well, you know what? I've heard a couple different stories that have come out of Penn State that the alums getting a little restless. The fans are getting a little restless. The student body's getting a little restless. That James Franklin needs to win the big game. And this might be the big game he wins, Smokin' Jim.
He's in the Final Four.
Yeah.
He's in the Final Four. He won two big games to get there. You can't get if you look at college basketball, you can't get no better than the Final Four. So,
no, not at all.
If they're not going to win a championship this year, so what they can hope for is to win this game and get to the championship. The winner plays
Ohio
for the
State,
national
Texas
championship.
What do you think of Ohio State, Texas?
Texas is loaded this year.
Yeah.
But for some reason, when they lay an egg, they lay an egg. And there's no way they should have lost two games. I think that they made a horrible mistake by not continuing with Manning's kid.
Arch Manning, yeah.
Yeah, Arch Manning he could run, he could throw. Look at the pedigree, but they got a quarterback they think he's going to go in the first round, and they went with him, even though it should have been. I think they could have won the national championship this year with that team with Arch Manning. So I think Ohio State. If Ohio State plays like they played against Oregon, it won't even be close.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I think this could be the game, the one that James Franklin finally wins. And I like Texas. I like Steve Sarkisian, and Ryan Day saved his job because I think think that if he would have lost in the first round of this playoff thing or whatever, I think he would have been fired. And I was actually some of the teams I was quite surprised about, Ohio State being one of them. And I'm surprised Georgia's not in this. I mean, they really had a rough year this year a little bit. And, and Alabama was overrated, of course. And, all right, let's see here. the Bengals. Let's get back to the NFL here a little bit about some of these coaches here. All right, the Bengals. Let's see. They fired their defensive coordinator, longtime defensive coordinator Lou Arumo. Wow, that was a firing there. And they've also former Raiders defensive coordinator Patrick Graham is in Cincinnati interviewing for that job today. And they're also bringing in former Patriots defensive coordinator DeMarcus Covington for to interview as well. So Cincinnati is already starting the interview process after they fired Lou Amoroto, who has been with that team forever. Special teams coach also has been there forever too. So I mean, that's sad that those guys are going out the door. But that's what happens when your team falls short. So somebody's got to take the fall, and it's not going to be the head coach unless the owner fires him, or something. How about Ken Dorsey, Smokin' Jim? He got fired again. I mean, so
Wow.
he was fired from Buffalo, and Cleveland hired him. So I mean,
Wow.
yeah. So what a tough.
He might need to go back to college, maybe.
Yeah, go back to college or something. There's always some team out there looking for a coach. Always. Might have to. I didn't even realize what he looked like until I seen him in the press box for Buffalo, but when I seen him on Hard Knocks, he looked like a professor wearing those glasses. Did you see him on there?
Oh,
no. My gosh, he looked like a professor on there. He had these real pop bottle looking glasses, and I'm not making fun of the guy, but he looked pretty funny, and I'm like, oh wow, So but anyway. All right, let's talk some other Pittsburgh sports here real quick, and then we got to pay a couple bills here. So this next segment is brought to you by the original Hometown Pizza, Moon Township, 412-264-4444. Call them today, eat in, take out, or delivery. Tell them Ralph Williams sent you. You'll get a discount on your order. So make sure you call the original Hometown Pizza, Moon. You're on your way to the airport, perhaps. Stop by, get a pizza at the original Hometown Pizza, Moon Township, 412-264-4444. You're on your way to a game or anything, or some event out at Robert Morris or something, stop by and get a pizza there. Even if you're taking back returns from the Christmas season, so do that as well. Alex's Flowers, call him today, 412-661-6071. One of the best florists in Western Pennsylvania. Call him today. And have him deliver you some flowers. Look, he does the best arrangements for funerals, weddings, and also for your sweetheart and anything else that you need. Alex's Flowers is there for you. And Digital Data. Look, Digital Data, they are the ones who handle my website, www.rwmediaproductions.com, and they do a very good job of it as well. And what they do is they manage it for me. I simply send them an email. I tell them what I need done. I send them the material, and it's up on my website within an hour, not even that. And then they send me an email back saying it's done. So there you go, Digital Data, if you need to get a website built as well. Also, I want to talk to you today about Scott Morganroth, who is he has the South Florida Tribune Network, where he has several shows throughout the week. Check him out on the SouthFloridaTribune.com. Check out his articles. Jeremy Ballrick is also on there as well. George Eichhorn, who we've had on the radio show in the past when we were on Beaver County Radio. He has a book called Lessons from the Microphone, Turning and Enduring Wisdom into Visionary Leaders. Scott's been in the broadcasting business for 45 years. He has a great book out. Check it out as well. And I'm working on getting Dave Finoli on here. Dave just come out with a new book about about Bill Hillgrove and Myron Cope. So so we're going to try to have Dave come on. As you know, he has shows on the draftnation.com as well. Smokin' Jim, real quick, your thoughts on Pitt men's basketball. Jeff Capel's got his team in the top 10 in the polls. Your thoughts on Jeff Capel's team?
Well, I tell you what, they got a tough one tonight, man. They got to play Duke. I believe they got to go to Duke to play, and Duke's on an 8-game win streak. I think they're top 5 in the country, so that should be a fun game to watch.
Oh yeah, Duquesne They've been sort of struggling with Drew Joyce a little bit. They're not as good as they were last year, but of course, the cupboard was a little bit bare for Drew as well. They're playing St.
How come Duquesne? How come the city game is not? How come Duquesne and Pitt didn't play the city game anymore?
Jeff Capel, when he first got here as the head coach, made a comment that said, "We don't have the time for Duquesne."
Okay.
They played, I think, the first 2 years he was here, and then, or the first 2 years that he started, and then he made some derogatory comment and told Heather Lyke, "We don't have time for Duquesne," and I don't know why either. Every other team on pitch that Pitt has in their athletic department, they play Duquesne. I don't understand why the men's basketball can't fit it in their schedule. I just don't get it. And I remember when
heard something. Am I hearing it wrong? Did I hear that the football team is playing Duquesne this year?
Not this year. Next year, 26.
Next year.
And then in 27, I heard they're playing Robert Morris.
Really?
Yes.
Now that's how you get 6 wins. That's how you get bowl eligible.
Pitt will be 6-5 and whatever again. Go to some bowl game, collect their money.
Or Robert Morris.
Yeah.
Right? How about St. Francis, man? They want to go after St. Francis.
Yeah.
Who's the coach that we interviewed? That the booking machine booked that their team went to Division I this past year.
Slippery
was
Rock.
That a team in there?
Slippery Rock's team.
No, not Slippery Rock. Was it Gannon or one of them teams? What was one of them schools?
Gannon did pretty good for themselves. Yeah, Gannon did well.
But the team just went this year for the first time, Division I. I forget who it was. They weren't that good of a team, but they got Division I status. I forget you interviewed the coach.
Yeah.
Pitt may want to play them. Another win, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Division I program. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, you know it. But we'll see what happens down the road. With all of our football teams and basketball teams. I got to tell you, Indy Tools not doing too bad at Robert Morris. They're about 500. So, usually they win no more than 6 games in the last couple of years. So they're doing pretty good in basketball. And then Drew Joyce at Duquesne, the cupboard was bare, but they play St. Joe's tomorrow night at 7, and tonight Pitt plays Duke at Duke. That's going to be a really interesting game. I'm interested to see what happens there. Duke is always tough. They always play well. And so, we're going to find out there. And the Penguins, on the other hand, are on another 3-game losing streak. They just lost 3 in a row. Let's see if they can pick it up again coming up. I don't know what we can expect from them. They just brought back Jeff Hayes, and he seems like he's doing pretty good for himself. He had a couple goals in this losing streak. He's been a healthy scratch for a while, and now all of a sudden he's back in the fold. They traded for him, some draft picks for him. I don't know, Kyle Dubas, to me, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if he's handcuffed or something, but, I thought he would do a better job than what he is. And, of course, he was, Ron Hextall didn't do him any favors when he got fired. So, it's going to take a few more years here. Smokin' Jim, your thoughts on Mike Sullivan? You think he's still the coach for this team, or do you think the Penguins need to move on?
I think that I always thought they should have moved on a few years ago from Sullivan, but whether they will or not probably will depend. He's still writing his story this season. They have an outside shot, maybe not that far of an outside shot of making the playoffs. I think if the Penguins make the playoffs, they'll probably have him return again for the next season.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just don't. I think Fenway Group, and I agree with a couple of our media colleagues out there that I think that they need to possibly sell the team because they're not doing us any favors by keeping Mike Sullivan as the head coach there. And the attendance has been low at the games. And so, I don't know. I don't know what else they can do. But Malkin's contract runs out next year. He's moving on to Russia. And Letang wants out. He wants traded to Montreal, but I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen with him. But we'll find out. So. But anyway, all right, Smokin' Jim, we're getting ready to wrap things up here in about 5-6 minutes. Anything? Actually, yeah, we're getting ready to wrap it up here in about 2 minutes here. What your thoughts on or anything you want to talk about? Open talk here.
I tell you what, man, another fun show from the booking machine. Hey, anytime we get a guy like Ray FIDEPALDO on, this close to the playoff action, and wow! And I tell you what, Ray, he did not bite his tongue. He felt like the Pittsburgh Steelers were maybe the worst team of all the teams in the playoffs, and like you said, he rated the coaching staff and the players. So great job for Ray for really doing his job in the media.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Hold on a second here. Our guest is on. Hang on. All right, hold on a minute. Yeah, our guest Lou Marconi here. He just texted me here. He is still coming on, and I'm going to let him know that we're still having him on. He'll be on at 5:00. Lou is a former NWA wrestler. We're going to talk about his time in NWA and about what's going on now with NWA. Smokin' Jim, we got a lot to talk about. Raw debuted on Netflix last night. They had 4 quality matches. We're going to see where it goes from there. Different announce team. They had Michael Cole with Pat McAfee. They moved Joe Testoro to SmackDown. I believe he's going to be working with Corey Graves. Wade Barrett may be coming back to the ring. Lots of WWE news, AEW, TNA. Joe Hendry has been picking on Nick Nemet's brother, really going after him to get Nick Nemet's attention for another championship match that he lost in the last pay-per-view. So we're going to find out, we got a lot to talk about. So, but anyway, hold on one second here. Let me get a hold of Lou and let him know what's going on. So there we are. All right. Lou will be joining us at 5:00. He's not only a former professional wrestler, but he is also covers the Cleveland Browns. And we're going to talk a little bit about Ken Dorsey getting fired and where Kevin Stefanski goes. As far as he knows, Lou, he told me he is not being fired. So we'll see what goes on with the Cleveland Browns. We'll have him coming on momentarily. Stay tuned. Coming up next is Wrestle Talk with me, Ralph Williams, Smokin' Jim Frazier. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back coming up soon. See you next week for another edition of Sports Corner, and I'll have some more great guests on coming up next week. So be here on Tuesdays, every Tuesday, 4 to 5 p.m. Have a good night. Thank you.